Documentaries serve a large purpose in the film world as a way to spread certain beliefs or ideologies through video representation. The 13th brings light to the history of Black Americans and their struggle with civil rights and police brutality. The documentary also talks about the prison system within this time and how it affected the lives of many in an extremely unjust way. The movie starts off talking about the way in which Black people had been represented after the Civil War had occurred. As the South had many of the slaves in the United States, the Southern economy was left to rebuild without the labor force that they had once utilized for much of the work that was being done there. This view had set a structure for the rest of the movie, moving closer and closer to current times. After slaves were set free, many of the former slaves were beginning to be arrested and taken as prisoners. Doing so allowed the Southern government to use these new prisoners as a force of free labor. Though the slaves were free at this time, there wasn't much of an idea of freedom as there was meant to be. Another key element that was present at the time was the movie Birth of a Nation. This movie had been a large turning point in the idea that Black Americans were free. The film depicts Black people as criminals who assault white women and act like animals. This depiction had caused many Americans to look down upon Black people even more than the perspective that had already existed, specifically due to the KKK. Though the 13th Amendment and the Voting Rights Act had been enacted later in the 20th century, many presidents had still created an unjust society for Black people. One specific act that had been used to target Black Americans in an indirect way had been Nixon's War on Drugs. This war had focused on the idea that Black people would be arrested for heroin, while white hippies would be arrested for marijuana as a side effect for the plan. This was actually proven by one of Nixon's advisors in an interview where he had admitted to knowing completely about how the plan was targeted towards Black Americans. This type of targeting had continued to affect the Black population, constantly increasing the incarcerated population in the U.S. Though some of these individuals were in prison for a specific amount of time, lots was done in making sure that these people would remain in prison without any outside help to allow them to recover in some way. This mass incarceration has continued into the 21st century as well. Though police brutality may seem like it had declined from what it had appeared to be in the 20th century, there have been many events in which Black Americans were harmed or even killed by police officers. One specific event that proved police brutality to still be in full effect is the death of Eric Gardner. Gardner was choked to death by officers who had stopped him for selling individual cigarettes on a street corner. This event had shaped the idea of current police brutality. Overall, this movie presented many important and significant events that prove the inequality that Black Americans experience, even to this day.